This isn't just something eBay thought up. This is a product, the barcode on the envelope and the tracking provided by the post office, and these other companies just tap into that scanning and get the information from the post office. It's basically... Now it's the end of June 2023, and it's time to go over the June 2023 eBay standard envelope scan analysis. In June, eBay was under 90% only in one of the scan areas I track, and they were over 90% in the other three. I had 4 no scans where envelopes did not get scanned at all in the postal system and showed on eBay, which is still up. I usually have 0 or 1. In the last couple months I've had more, 3 or 4 of them. I had no refunds or claims submitted in June, and for this year my refund rate is very low. 1 is all I can think of, and that was early January. So I haven't had any major issues with the mail system so far this year. I've had a few people say it was delivered and it wasn't there yet, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now when the scans don't occur, or there's big gaps in them, it can cause us a lot of extra work. I did a video about that. It's like, where's my postcard? That's what the messages basically get. If you take eBay standard envelope to the post office or try to hand it to your carrier, they cannot scan it, and it can only be done at the distribution centers on the high-speed scanning machines. A lot of people get messed up with that with packaging. It's not as robust as package tracking for first class or priority, or the new one that's coming out in July for post office. You pay more when an item is delivered to the house. They're not going to scan every envelope. They can't. They can't pay a carrier to do that with the price we're paying for eBay standard envelope. So when it says delivered in the scan on eBay for eBay standard envelope mailing, it's still at the last distribution center, and it will take a couple days or so to get to the house. And that's where a lot of people will send a message. It's not as bad as it was a year or so ago, and it's getting better. But in that video I showed, I talk about how I deal with that. Now we're going to walk through in a minute of just a very high level of how I think eBay standard envelope works. There's probably a lot more pieces to it, but it gives you in a nutshell at a very high level of what's going on and all the moving pieces. Now anybody that's watched this video before on the scan analysis can skip over that by using the chapters at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and show that little clip right now. Here is a slide I'm going to bring up on the big screen. This is just the process in my head on there, not real detailed, layman terms. I don't know how everything works with this. I can speculate from my IT background, my technical background, but there are so many different ways to do it. But in a nutshell, this should explain to anybody how it works. So the first box there is you got eBay and Etsy platform. They're connected across multiple data centers and stuff like that. They're not in the same one. That's why it's got the dotted line there. They're 2 separate companies, 2 separate platforms, 2 separate programs, applications, and stuff like that. They're not shared. But I just put them in a box to make it easier. When someone buys a postcard from either eBay or Etsy, it goes to the post office. The post office then sends data to eBay or Etsy in some way, format, a file, web services, some integration is going to go up and going to come down. Either eBay and Etsy picks it up or directly goes into those platforms if they have shared access. So that's your scans. When it hits the post office, it goes back and forth into the tracking on eBay and Etsy. If everything is successful with the delivery, and then you got a happy customer like at the end here. Even though the scans are not happening, most of the time the customer gets the card and they're happy. Now that clip did show Etsy, because I used to sell on Etsy, and I already had the clip done, so I just left it there because Etsy uses this type of tracking as well, and so does Macari, LetterTrack, a lot of other companies. This isn't just something eBay thought up. This is a product, the barcode on the envelope and the tracking provided by the post office, and these other companies just tap into that scanning and get the information from the post office. It's basically used for a lot of marketing material, probably, where if I'm a company and I was selling aluminum siding and I sent it out to 50,000 residential customers. I'd like to know how many were delivered, received, so there's some kind of tracking. Well, they basically figured out how to use this for eBay and Mercari and Etsy and stuff like that, and LetterTrack has been doing it for years. It is a service, and it's better than what we had before. We used to do it with a stamp and a label and no tracking at all. Now we have a little something that we didn't have before. But now let's get into the details. Here's the eBay stats for June 2023. Now every month since January 1st, I tracked 100 random mailings from my solds in eBay. Even though it's a day earlier this month, it's June 30th when I'm doing this video, I had 100 in there, so I was able to get the graphs and stuff done early. Usually it's the first week of the next month. But here's the chart, and I'll put it on the big screen. You notice the red isn't as bad as it was last month. There's some spot areas, and we're going to key in on one of those. That's where I got the no scans. But the columns I have in the graph that I track is the state, is the first column. I want to kind of know if there's a problem with the state or something like that. So I always put the state it was delivered to. And then the label. I create the labels. I do all the labels. So that's 100%. That's basically my control. 100 postcards sold, 100 mailings. That's 100. Then the first step in its journey is when you put it at the post office or your mailbox, they pick it up, they send it to the distribution center of your local origin, and it gets an origin scan. After that, it goes in a destination scan, then it gets out for delivery. I just put delivery in the chart, but that's out for delivery. And then the all-important delivered scan at the end there. And then the last column is the average days from the time I created the label to when it said delivered in eBay plus 1 day. I just give it 1 extra day because I know it's at the distribution center. I could do 2 or 3 or 4, but I just forgot to do it the same for all 1 day. And that's the average for the state. Now the origin scans down at the bottom there was 88%. They missed 12 origin scans. Mine goes to Champaign, Illinois. If I mail it across the street, it goes 2 hours south to Champaign and it'll come back and then go to the house. So Champaign, Illinois missed 12 scans on the origins. Now remember, there's no acceptance scan required for eBay standard envelope. It just requires a scan throughout the route somewhere. You can't hand it to anybody or at the post office and they're going to do an acceptance scan. It has to go to the distribution center. And only machines can scan the barcode there. Now the next column, destination scan, was 91%. That's up from last month. They only missed 9 of those. Then out for delivery, they missed 8, 92%. So they're still above 90%, and 90% is kind of level that I put in a line in the sand to say, hey, if it's below 90%, we're probably getting messages from buyers. If it's above 90%, we're probably not getting as many messages, but the goal is always 100% scans is what they should be shooting for. But 90% is just something arbitrary that I put in there, and it seems to be a good number. The number of messages are way down to what it was a year or so ago. Now the delivered scan, that's important. Missed 10 of those. So how can you miss 12 origins, 9 destination, miss 8 out for delivery, and 10 delivered? They're all different because they all go through different systems. They all go to different distribution centers. They're all different. But the only constant is eBay. All that information goes back to eBay, and they're supposed to display it. So maybe one day eBay got the information but didn't display it. So where is the problem with the scans? It's just interesting, but there's a lot of moving parts, and I don't have visible into all those different parts to troubleshoot that. But it just, the different scans are the different sites, but the one constant is eBay. Now the 4 no scans, if you look on the chart on Georgia, there was 3 labels created, but there was no scans for any of the Georgia mailings. That's interesting because it goes through my origin, all the destination scan distribution centers, and there was no scans for those, and it was all Georgia. I don't know what's going on with those, but it was all Georgia, and it goes from Champaign, Illinois, probably Louisiana to Georgia, and there was no scans. I think, to me, that's not a coincidence. I think there was a problem with eBay during that time, because that's just It's just too many possibilities of getting a scan somewhere on 3 different mailings, on 4 different scans. That's 12 scans total, and I didn't get none. To me, that points to eBay. It's too much of a coincidence, but what do I know? Now the last column is the average for the post office. And if you look at there, I highlighted a couple of them, the 7s. One was Delaware and the other one was Iowa. Iowa is right next to me. I'm on the eastern side of Illinois, about 15 miles from the Indiana border. Iowa's about 3 or 4 hours west of me, maybe a little more. So I went to Champaign and then went to come over to Iowa. So why is that 7 days? Interesting. So a lot of this information you could sit and read about, but there's not a lot we can do about it. We can just track it and see if it's us or if it's and I'm not getting a lot of, it's amazing, I'm not getting a lot of message from customers. I went on vacation in June for 7 days and I sold 71 postcards. And I did a video about it, how I set my store up for vacation. I looked at, most of those have said deliver now, and most of those have got scans. Not all of them are in this 100 because I wanted a good mix throughout the month. But as I was going through it, I checked a lot of those during that time frame, and I haven't got any messages. Everybody's happy, no issues, nobody screaming, where's my postcard? So that went off really well this year. I also do another little graph to track throughout the year so we can see it. And here you can see the line. One with origin you can see really dipped in April, it went back up in May, and it dropped down below 90 again in June. And then the other ones were right below 90 for a while, and then they moved up to over 90 this month. So it's a good trend but it needs to hold. A trend isn't just 1 month to me. It's got to be 2, 3, 4 months of holding there. So they had something going on in March, April, in there, and I heard that eBay was doing a lot of stuff on the site and there was a lot of problems. So maybe they were getting the information, they just didn't get it into their system, is my speculation if you put all the pieces together. But that's the graph. It still needs work. I think the scans, I think eBay sent some test letters out, and you maybe got a letter about eBay standard envelope with stickers and maybe a blank rigid holder. They're just testing to see which ones go through and what the requirements are. They weren't sending free holder out to you. They were just testing the scans, I think. So they are looking at it. It is what I see with that. At least we had something physical instead of just someone talking to us, that they're doing some testing to make it better. I think a lot of the problems, I really do, is the information in the eBay and displayed out on the website. There's different things going on. The information comes from the post office that's sent to eBay, and they have it in the back end, but now they just need to display it correctly onto the front page that we see. So there's two, they got the information, but they're not displaying it right and stuff like that. And I hear a lot of people talk about their metrics are off and stuff. It usually resets itself when they go through. I'm usually running around 95.7 or 96% on scans updated on time and stuff, because I send a lot of photos and stuff out with a stamp and a label. And sometimes I'm kind of low, and I look at it a couple days later, I'm back up. So it does true up on there. So don't, and if you are going to go under top rated for one, the times I've lost it, they gave me a 30-day grace period to get back up. So I didn't lose it, they gave me a grace period. Don't hold me to that, that's what they did for me. So the 2 times or so I've lost it because of the scans, they just gave me a grace period. It worked out well. And here's the graph for the post office. They're not doing bad. They went in March, they went up to 6 days average, but they've been holding steady through the year, and that's a trend, 5 days. So you put something in the post office, it's getting to the destination with 5 days, which isn't too bad. So to sum up, eBay standard envelope, it's still needs some work, but it's better than what we had. I think it's one of the best things they've ever done, along with sending offers to buyers. eBay standard envelope just makes it so easy. Print, peel, and stick. I don't have to buy stamps and all that stuff, and there is some kind of tracking, which we never had before. So from a bottom up, from people that used to not have anything, this is good. From the package people and stuff coming down, the scanning is not robust as enough as those packages and stuff. So people look at that. Now make sure you check the video out also. If you do get some missing or damaged, look at the requirements in this video here about eBay standard insurance. Just think, you can ship out, so I can get up to 3 postcards in the one envelope for an ounce for 60 cents. And if it doesn't make it, I refund the customer, and in 30 days, I just send a claim in and I get refunded. Last year I got back about $70 in claims that I put in. Never had one not approved yet. And it's all works. So look at the requirements in this video, and I walk through the form. It's real simple. You just got to do a little bit of tracking, be a little more organized on it, and you'll be able to get your money back. So I'm never worried about putting something in the mail and it doesn't make it. I'm going to continue to walk through tracking 100 mailings every month for the rest of the year, just to give us a good trend to see how things are going. And I thank you for watching. And make sure you're subscribed so you can see when I put this video out at the end and beginning of every month. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.